Like even if you're new to business, don't feel like you have to listen to everyone. Don't feel like everyone's opinion actually has weight, because it doesn't. Everyone wants to offer their 2 cents about, what you should do or who you should pursue or how you should structure your business or what products you should offer. But ultimately it comes down to you and your business sense. And I've just got so much advice over the past year, some of which has been absolute gold, and I've really taken to heart. But other advice I took quite seriously, and then maybe a few weeks later I looked back and I was like, that's not me at all. Like, I shouldn't have, just because they're more experienced in business, they don't know my situation.
Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Push Podcast. This is the podcast where we explore the real stories behind what makes entrepreneurs and business owners the successes they are today. I am Jack Ferguson, a small business growth strategist, and I will be your host. I believe the best way to learn and be inspired is to listen to the experiences and stories of those you respect. Their real experiences, their real story, warts and all. Honest storytelling is what this is all about. Show notes can be found at bethepush.com/podcast, and don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you are listening to this. Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 8. Today my guest is Sala Rankine, founder of Snag Studio, a specialised hospitality branding and marketing agency. Sala's story is very unique. She started her business in the hospitality niche a month before COVID started, so we talk about how she approached this. Starting a business in a difficult space at a difficult time does make for intriguing listening. We also talk about how she learned to charge properly for her services, how important it is to get everything in writing, who you should listen to for business advice, how Sala spoke at LinkedIn at just 20 years old, her experiences with bad bosses, and how her passion for hospitality came to be. Another great episode with a great guest. Let's meet Sala. Hello, Sala. How are you today?
Hi. I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for being with us. I'm excited to hear your story. But you're in hospitality at the moment.
Yep.
How has the hospitality industry been over the last couple of years?
I'm pretty new to the hospitality industry. I only got into it in 2017. So I was very green when I got into hospitality. I did not know a single thing about anything. I didn't know any different varietals of red or white. I just thought it was like red wine, white wine. I knew like a Merlot because that was what my dad drank. But I was very green. So I didn't really pay attention for the first year and a half that I was in hospitality. I was kind of just trying to survive. The only attention that I've really paid has been in the last, I don't know how many years is that, 2.5 years-ish, where I've been focusing on the market around Brisbane. It's exploded even since I started, especially with Howard Smith Wharves. It's just like gone crazy. We can see all of these different places opening in the valley. But then obviously COVID crushed it into a million little pieces. No, I shouldn't say that. It's not a million little pieces. It's just put pause on everything. There was a few casualties. But now, since maybe August last year, everything is just blowing up again. I think that it's come back better than ever. I think people had a lot of time to reevaluate what they were doing, why they were doing it, what was working, what wasn't, instead of just trying to tread water. And for the most part, you see people opening again, and they're not doing the same thing. They've switched it up a little bit. People have stuck with takeaway. People have stuck with, Bopple or Uber Eats or Deliveroo or whatever that might be. But yeah, it's exciting times.
It's probably one of the first times, that hospitality business owners had the chance to actually step back because, they're renowned for just running a million miles an hour all the time.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people took a moment to reflect, not just on their businesses, but I think a lot of people reflected on whether it was worth opening again, whether hospitality was what they wanted to do, which is, I think, a good thing in the end, because it means that the people who are operating now are the people who really want to.
Yeah.
They're in it because they love hospitality. There's no one in it to make money anymore because where's the money?
Yeah. And did you see a lot of stressed business owners, as obviously around when COVID hit and when you were getting involved in the first?
Yeah. Well, I only got into business in hospitality working for myself, just before COVID. So in my
good timing.
Awesome timing for me. So my first 4 months of learning even how to pitch myself was to incredibly stressed business owners.
Yeah.
And I think now it's turned to a different kind of stress, which is we only just survived. How can we avoid this happening again? If there's another outbreak in Brisbane, like we saw in Melbourne, places just got absolutely wiped out because they just didn't expect it. There was places that opened between the two lockdowns in Melbourne, and then, they were open for 2 weeks, and then they just got completely shut down. But yeah, JobKeeper's about to end in a week from when we're recording this. So I'm seeing a lot of people stressed about that, a few of my clients. But otherwise, it's just staff. I think a lot of people got out of hospitality during COVID, so there's no staff in Brisbane at all.
Right.
And no international, working visas because no one's travelling.
Sure.
So there's just no staff. That's the biggest point of stress that I'm seeing.
Right.
So,
okay.
A tangent.
Yeah, right. Interesting. So, how did you feel about selling branding services to hospitality owners during this time?
I felt pretty crap about it, honestly, because I kind of had this, moral dilemma. I knew that they needed it. I knew that so many businesses needed to take the time and clarify who they are, what they're doing, why they're doing it, basically their brand, their personality. But it feels a bit greasy to be sending quotes for thousands of dollars to reevaluate an entire brand to venues that don't even have 3% margins on what they're doing. So I don't know, I kind of just had to back myself and almost plead blissful ignorance. Surely you've got the budget for this. It feels really gross to say now, but I kind of just had to pretend that wasn't a dilemma that I was having and just kind of stick to my guns and negotiate when I had to negotiate. But it was a hard time anyway when, and I think that business owners could feel that I was a bit hesitant to, ask them to give me money. I don't know. I sound like I'm putting myself on a pedestal here, oh my God, I'm so kind and thoughtful and, all I do is think of other people's feelings. But yeah, I think they could feel the hesitation and they knew that I was a bit awkward about trying to take their money.
And that worked for you or against you?
I don't know what was working for me and what was working against me last year. I do not know what the secret sauce was. I think I just was just coasting for most of last year, just paying my bills and paying my rent. I didn't pay myself until maybe a month ago. So I didn't know if anything was actually working per se, but I just think I was lucky to have a few clients who just stuck with me and took a chance.
Sure.
Sounds very romantic.
Well, they still would need the brand identity and all that, right? Even in hard times, perhaps more so in hard times.
Yeah.
And a lot of them don't do that right. They don't necessarily get the identity part right, and that's why they need people like you. Why do you think a lot of hospitality businesses don't do this? Or don't do it well?
I think that I'm speaking specifically about Brisbane. I think that there is I don't want to step on anyone's toes. I think that there's the old guard, I guess, of hospitality Brisbane hasn't always been a bustling, crazy big city. There was, a set of restaurants that were the tried and true, and there was enough demand for all of them. But as Brisbane's popping off, we're getting chefs from Melbourne, from Sydney, from LA. There's more and more places opening up, and the competition's obviously getting a bit more hectic. But I don't think that a lot of operators have ever had to think of it before. I think that they have just opened it for the, sake of opening their restaurant because they have, a passion for it and they love it. And they serve incredible food and they have incredible spaces. But that's the whole identity. And then there's other places that kind of open because they just want to have something, fast casual kind of places that are just trying to be fun and not thinking it through. I feel like I'm just bitching now.
No, all good.
But I think that it's just not front of mind. Front of mind is the food and the guest. But the way that I approach things is that the guest sees everything. They're not just sitting down with blinkers on and eating delicious food. They're seeing the way that your staff are groomed. They're seeing the, reservation email. They're seeing the plates that you're using, the glassware that you're using.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've gone on a tangent here.
No, all good.
But the reason that I think that they don't think about it is because they haven't had to. It's just more competitive than ever now. Okay.
And you do talk about good food not being enough to run a successful restaurant. You're preaching to the choir, but tell me why that's the case.
I think that it has been in the past, and like I say, it might have been enough when there wasn't such high competition. But now we all know that we go and try every new place. And unless you're getting, a strong emotional experience, or you feel a connection to a place, or you get excellent service, or whatever that might be, probably not going to go back, even if it was excellent food. And an interesting thing that I was talking about with a client the other day is most, high-end or fine diner restaurants, they've got two brands anyway. They've got their chef, and then they've got the restaurant itself. So this chef needs the freedom to be able to make their excellent food and have creative control without having to worry about it being financially viable and not pandering to the market. So the restaurant, on the other side, needs to have this strong brand, which means their marketing, their socials, their front of house staff, everything needs to be really strong to cultivate that emotional connection. So the chef can just do his thing and be creative, because, good food doesn't equal financially viable, and it's just going to be shit if he or she is just thinking about what the market wants and what's going to make the margins, because they're just going to, creative freedom's just going to go down the toilet.
Sure. Yeah. And I suppose it still needs to be different food as well. Like, I mean, sometimes you go to places and they all kind of start tasting the same after a while.
Yeah, I think that there's a time and a place for classics, and there's nothing new anymore. You can't do something new, which means that, again, you can't just rely on the food. Like, we saw that phase maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Everything was Asian fusion. Everything. And the way that these different venues made themselves, unique was their interiors. Some of them had really punny cocktail names. Some of them were quite, overtly sexual. All of these different places put the work in to put an identity together that differentiated them from every other Asian fusion place. Or like when dessert was like a crazy big trend, like everything was fairy floss and unicorn, and do you remember that? Like waffles and fairy bread and everything. Like, I'm not going to back that trend. I'm there for Asian fusion. I'm not there for fairy floss waffles. But there were so many places doing like the loaded shakes and all of that sort of thing. And even then, they all managed to do something right, because they were all busy, even if it was just the Instagrammable, aspect of having, a burger on top of a milkshake or whatever that might be.
Sure.
But yeah.
But just following the trends as well. Like, I mean, in my time, I've worked with a few hospitality businesses too, and it doesn't, in my experience, lead to long-term success either necessarily, because I saw a lot of people jumping on trends that really didn't make sense for their restaurant or for their cafe or whatever it was that they were doing. And maybe it works for a little bit, and you can, but that's the trend. That's not your brand that you're leveraging at that moment. So when the trend goes,
I agree.
So do all the customers that were there just for the trend.
And it's not to say don't get on trends, because some trends really make sense for some places. I posted about this like halfway through COVID, where it was something to the effect of, you don't have to do merch, you don't have to do takeaway, you don't have to do bottled cocktails, you don't have to do all of these things, but if they make sense, if you have a big poster for it in your dining room, are your guests going to look at it and think, what the is that them? But if it makes sense, go for it, do it, make your money. Your margins are tight. And there's lots of places in Brisbane who have jumped on like trends per se and smashed it. But then others, you can see it's quite transparent, I feel. I don't know if you feel the same way.
I'd agree,
Yeah.
It's going to make sense for the brand still,
Exactly. And I don't know, it sounds like a shady example, but within the last maybe year or two, every single restaurant has a bug roll or a lobster roll or a prawn roll. What are we doing here? Where is this all, like, even places that aren't, Asian restaurants or, contemporary restaurants, I say with an eye roll. Everyone's putting a bug roll on with a little brioche bun. What? Guys, come on. It's just, I feel like that's a trend. I'm being very specific here, and I think I've just seen an opportunity to gripe about bug rolls.
Right.
But I think if you can make a trend work for you, then do it.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, for sure. So why hospitality though? So you started this a bit over a year ago, this business, right? What was the impetus to get into hospitality?
I knew that I was going to do this at some point, but I didn't know when it was going to make sense for it to happen. I fell into hospitality by accident, and I didn't expect to love it as much as I did. I think my first week I turned to my manager, it was 1 a.m. We were, catching up after service. And he was like, so how do you feel? Are you okay? Are you handling it? And I was like, I fucking love this. This is amazing. This was so much fun. I'd been in a team of one before that, just myself. So being able to talk with guests all night, workshop my jokes and, make people feel like $1 million as a hostess was amazing. And then the more I learned, the more I fell in love with it. So I think you would know this as well as anyone. It's such an addictive industry. And if you love it, you cannot stay away. I don't know. I considered just doing general branding for businesses. I considered, because I've got a few freelance copywriting clients who are, say, accountants and lawyers and that sort of thing. And I just couldn't get jazzed about it. And I thought halfway through last year, obviously hospitality wasn't a viable market in the middle of COVID. I considered so many times, do I just get a normal job? Do I pursue a different market? Do I don't know, literally all of the possibilities ran through my head, and I just couldn't bear to give up so soon. That's taken a turn into a very poignant direction, but I think I don't know, I just fell in love with it. It's addictive.
Right.
And the people are amazing. And there's so much exciting stuff happening in Brisbane in hospitality. Yeah, I couldn't walk away.
Cool. And so tell us a bit about what that first month or two was like. I mean, you start this business in February 2020, right? And COVID comes in, I think March, wasn't it? I don't actually remember, but somewhere around there. Yeah. So that sounds like basically the perfect storm, almost the worst industry to be in at that time.
I could not have chosen a worse time to decide to be self-employed. I had a few copywriting clients, just random corporate stuff that I knew would keep me going. But I had in my mind, I said to myself, I'm going to pursue this market really hard. I know that I've got something excellent to offer. I know that people need me in Brisbane because there's, in Brisbane, there's really only larger agencies doing hospitality, and not everyone has the budget for that. So I was going to go after this, niche of smaller businesses or smaller restaurants, largely restaurants who'd been operating for a long time and had just realised what we're doing isn't working for us anymore. We need to reevaluate, as opposed to, new businesses. And then COVID came along, and I don't think I realised the effect that it was going to have on what I was doing until quite late, maybe June. Okay. I was like, I'm just going to keep pushing because everyone's doing takeaway. It's fine. This is all still fun. Remember when COVID was fun and we were all just staying at home and romanticising takeaway. But yeah, I don't think it hit me until quite late. I had an emergency fund that I'd saved from another job, but it just was not enough. So I just burned through my entire emergency fund trying to get business, and then felt completely... there was a solid 4 or 5 months of last year where I just didn't work. I was so depressed because I was right. You start a business and then immediately just get punched into the ground. Yep. But being the stubborn person that I am, I wouldn't get a job because that felt like failure. And I didn't want to pursue another market because I don't enjoy that, and I can't possibly do something that I don't enjoy. So spoiled. So I just kept trying, and I just earned enough to pay my rent and pay my bills, and now I'm slowly getting back there, slowly building again, which is nice. Nice. But yeah, crazy times.
Yeah, and you did mention before, no, not on the podcast, but in your notes, that it's about charging properly, speaking about talking about rent and whatnot. Can you tell us about your experience with learning how to charge?
Yeah. So I was When I started writing my own invoices and quoting for clients, I had no idea how to charge. I literally took my full-time rate and just rounded it up. So I was charging $40 an hour. But obviously that assumes that I'm going to be working billable work for 40 hours a week to make back my wage, which is like, I roll my eyes now. But at the time I was like, whatever, this makes sense. But then I booked a few clients on that rate because they were like, sweet, hell yeah, let's do this. But then I found myself quite quickly, feeling resentment for those clients because I was like, I'm not earning enough money from you to make it worth my time. And I was ranting at my boyfriend one day and I was like, this is stupid. They're taking up too much of my time. They don't pay me enough for this. He was like, why don't you just ask them for more money? And I was like, I'm an idiot. I'm so stupid. So I increased my rates by like 60% in one go. And all of my clients were like, okay, cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were like, cool, that makes sense. You've been doing good work, which is flattering. But now when I'm quoting, I don't do an hourly rate anymore. I think that's silly. It's not fair to the client. It's not fair to me. I just kind of ballpark a figure and then work backwards and see if that might be the right amount of hours. And then I kind of just go as high as I said to you earlier, I just go as high as I can without laughing at myself. And I've never gotten a no. I've only gotten... maybe I'm still lowballing myself.
Okay.
Maybe I'm still, going way too low. I should just go ridiculous and go crazy. But yeah, I've never gotten a no. I've gotten negotiations, of course, but that's part of anything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's like the best thing that I've learned is my worth. And
for sure.
I was talking to someone the other day and they were like, well, someone has to be the most expensive. Why don't you be the most expensive? And I was like, cool, Good idea. That's a nice little phrase to keep in my mind.
Yep. And it's the growth strategist in me is like bursting at the seams right now because I make people charge more for what they do. Mm. And there's always clients who balk at it and fall off. I've never ever heard of 100%.
Yeah.
100% conversion rate from like a...
That being said, I didn't have like a crazy big client roster. I think it was like 4 or 5 clients. Yeah.
Still good.
Most of whom I wasn't doing like crazy amounts of work for. It was increments of, maximum work. It increased by like $500 a month. It wasn't like I was going from up to like $20,000 a month or, something crazy. It was, increments of a couple of $100s because at the moment I've got a large roster of small amount clients, but yeah, that's hopefully can change that one day. It's a lot of work.
And you talk about you spoke about some challenges that you had around getting things in writing. What are some experiences with not having something in writing when you started your business?
I have learned so much this year, seriously. If nothing else, COVID just let me feel out all of the kinks with an excuse that it was the pandemic rather than just me conducting poor business. A good example of me not getting things in writing and just taking people at their word over the phone is a client was asking me to quote for this huge job, and I was so excited about it. It would have made up like a quarter of a year's my goal earnings. Like, it was unreal. And I would have had to, put off other clients, and it was awesome opportunity. But I just kept getting handed around from one person to the next person, from my contact to the GM to the owner to the whatever. And we went through like 3 different proposals, and they wanted, mock-ups and full quotes and the whole shebang. And then they just ghosted me after like 3 months of talking.
What?
And I mean, I don't want to say that I get it, but I was stupid and I should have, asked for a deposit before I started doing, more in-depth work examples or, whatever that might be. But yeah.
So you're doing work that should have been paid for, basically.
Yeah. It was very like basic stuff, but it was more example work because we were talking about the hypothetical of us working out their purpose and their mission and their values and all of these sorts of, very conceptual things. And to help them get the idea, I was doing like a top level, well, your mission could be this and your vision could be this and your values could be these. And obviously that takes time, researching the brand and getting to know them and all of those bits and pieces. And yeah, I guess they just didn't have the budget, or I don't know. couldn't justify it. I don't know, but whatever. Live and let learn.
Yeah.
Live and let learn. Is that the phrase? Live and let
live. I think.
Live and let learn.
Live and
learn.
Whatever.
Whatever that is, I learned from that, and now I get everything in writing. I don't do any phone calls that I don't follow up with an email.
Sure.
I'm too scared.
Yeah. Wow. That sounds like some shady business who doesn't want to even just say, look, we're not interested anymore. And it's funny, like sometimes I'll write to people and I'll say, look, if you don't want to, fine, just let me know. Please just let me know. Just shoot me an email. I've gone to the effort of putting this together. I don't say that part, but that's what I'm thinking in my head.
Yeah.
Just you
give me the courtesy of,
you can say, like, I've given you the opportunity. If you want to back out, you always got that opportunity. But just literally say, look, hey, not for us anymore.
Yeah.
Fine.
Whatever. I'm not going to be offended. I just don't want to waste my time anymore.
But some people will just go quiet.
I used to
there
be
too.
like that. I used to be way too scared to reject contractors, so I just wouldn't reply. And I was like...
So that's what it's all about.
When I was like 20. I was like fielding quotes for these big things, and I was like, I'm too scared. Like event spaces and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have since learned better.
Right.
I'm not a dick about it anymore. I communicate.
Cool. Okay. And you speak about how this is always something you're going to do. You're always going to be a business owner.
I think so, yeah. Hopefully.
Can you take us back to when you were younger and where that perhaps came from?
Mm-hmm. I grew up in small business. My parents have always owned their own business. They own an environmental consulting company, so not even close to what I do. But from as long as I can remember, they've been the ones getting up at 6 a.m, ship us off to school, and then, they'd come up. They had the office at home. It was like a separate building next to the house. And they'd come up for dinner at like 8 o'clock, put us to bed, back down to the office till midnight, which is ridiculous. That is not a sustainable workload at all. But I don't know, just seeing that they've been doing that for like 25 years now, like 1999, I think they started it. So 21 years, yeah. So seeing that grow and grow and grow, and seeing them ride through the recession, and we got flooded twice in Emerald, seeing them ride through that, seeing them ride through the mining bust, which they have a lot of mining clients. It's just been so interesting, and I've learned so much. And I don't think that, I don't know, I've always kind of rejected people telling me what to do as well. I sound so spoiled in this podcast. I'm like, people can't tell me what to do. I do what I want.
No, I love that part. I resonate with that heavily. No one can tell me what to do, so
God.
Keep talking about it.
And I just feel so repulsed by people telling me what to do and how to do it. So I've always had that gripe in normal jobs. I've never really had a normal job. But yeah, it was always going to happen. I've always been crazy independent. I've always been creative, thinking of all of this silly ideas. I was about to say stupid. They're not stupid. They're just big and potentially not viable. But yeah, I think when I was little, I thought I was going to be like a novelist, which is interesting because I'm in copywriting now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just always going to happen. I didn't know if it was now or when I was, in my 40s, once I'd gotten all of my work out of the way and I had the freedom. But apparently it's now. Yeah. So thanks, COVID.
And do you remember when you first hated taking instructions?
Not really. I was a good student. I really, really loved school. I think it was actually, I used to have a job at Mitre 10, and my boss there was just such a hard taskmaster, which is ridiculous. I was 13, and it was me and my best friend at the time stacking shelves at Mitre 10, and she just like rode us like crazy all day. And I just remember going home and I'd be like, what the hell? Like, let me just live my life. Yeah. When realistically, I'm just a minion. I'm just there to put concrete on the shelf and like power tools on the shelf. Who am I? But I would come home and have this like high and mighty attitude about how dare she tell me what to do when I'm earning like, how much would I have been earning? Like $12 an hour or something. But yeah, I think I've had some excellent bosses along the way, and then I've also had some, but the excellent bosses are the ones who've left me to my own devices and just checked in occasionally and kind of guided me in the direction that they want me to go in, which I'm happy with. The ones that I've really clashed with are the ones who are overbearing and ride me and write my to-do list for me. So
yeah, we don't want them. But I wanted to talk to you about EV Games, like working there. I saw this on your thing and I was like, Okay. And you talk about you don't know anything. You don't play video games, or you don't. How did you do that job if you didn't know anything about video games?
I started working at the EB Games in Emerald, at the Emerald Plaza. So I think the pickings might have been quite slim in Emerald for the Christmas casuals. Okay. But I had my interview at a Macca's and got it in the interview, so I was super proud about that. But my boss was a female, and I was the only other girl on the team. So I think she wanted another girl on the team. But I loved that job. Really? I have never played a game in my life. I think I played Zelda when my boyfriend had a Switch. But I've never played a game in my life. I was a Sims addict. But it was just so fun. It was such a fun job. I didn't have to know the games. I would just say, oh yeah, that one's popular right now. Or because I was in there every day. When you're working Christmas casual, you just are there like full-time hours. But yeah, and then I took that when I moved to boarding school. I went to the Rockhampton EB Games in the big shopping centre. But yeah, it was awesome. I worked like Saturdays and Thursday nights, and that was my cash. And yeah, awesome team. And I think it was also, it sounds really bad, I think it was affirming for me as a teenage girl to be the only girl on the team and get attention. I really loved the attention. All the boys who would come into EB Games, because I think the general demographic of people who are shopping at EB Games, and I'm not shitting on anyone who shops at EB Games because I know plenty of people who do, but I think I was like 16 when I started, it was very affirming to have so much attention. Yeah. Very affirming. I sound so conceited in this chat. I'm like, everything's about me.
And you don't need to know the product. And
I just flip my hair and pat my eyelashes.
That's a fun game. Yeah. Buy that one. Buy this one too.
So fun. Yeah.
Want a controller as well.
Loved it.
Okay, cool. So you went to uni after that and then got a job. Where'd you go to uni?
UQ.
In Brisbane?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I went to Johns College. So I went from boarding school to essentially like grown-up boarding school.
Sure.
With alcohol.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't work for maybe the first year and a half or 2 years that I was in Brisbane. I had some savings from EB Games.
Nice.
And I worked on uni breaks at Wendy's in Emerald. I would go home and work at Wendy's, which is just also another amazing job, may I say. Milkshakes and hot dogs, amazing. Right. But yeah, and then in my last year of uni, I got a full-time job.
Right.
Doing social media marketing.
Okay.
But yeah.
And how did you get that?
Just literally applied. Okay. The application process was very, wanted you to be quite creative. So I made an Instagram profile as my application, and each post addressed a criteria of the job description.
That's cool.
Yeah, so there was like, for example, there was one that was like, you are finicky about spelling and grammar or whatever that might be. And I've got, actually this is not going to translate well over audio. I'm nixing this story right now. But yeah, I just made an Instagram profile that was my application, and I got the job and was there for like a year and a half.
Cool. And is this, you talk about coming into your own as a marketer here, is that right? What makes you say that?
Well, I was kind of on my own. I was a team of one and my boss. So I wasn't allowed to schedule anything. That was one of the requirements. I had to post on the fly and post what was going on in the office that day. So it was super involved. And I learned, obviously doing that, you learn an eye for, content, #content marketing, #content is king. But yeah, it was a very fast-paced environment. I learnt so much. And it was a recruitment agency as well, so there was people recruiting into marketing roles there as well. So you can't help but learn. And then, as a pass to that, you get to go to all of the Interactive Minds events, all of the marketing panels, everything in Brisbane. So I just kind of learnt a lot in like 12 months. But yeah, it was good.
And this is where you get to speak at LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when I think I was 20 or 21, I got invited down to Sydney to speak on a panel at LinkedIn about, the power of, I think it was the power of content marketing on LinkedIn or something to that effect of being different on LinkedIn. I can't remember what the topic was, but it was me and two other marketing managers for recruitment firms. But yeah, they flew me down in the morning and I did the panel and then I flew back, and it was pretty crazy for so young.
Yeah.
I don't think I realised the gravity of what it was until, 2 years later. I was like, oh crap, I don't know if I'm going to get another opportunity like that ever. That is amazing. But yeah, I think I was just in the right place at the right time.
And how many people were at that event listening to you talk?
I don't know, maybe 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't like a huge auditorium or anything. It was just at their offices in like a meeting room. But yeah, it was pretty cool.
That is incredible for 20.
I don't know how, I think I just fall into things and just go with the flow, and I don't know. Sometimes I feel like things happen to me, but I know that I'm manifesting all of these things that happen. But yeah, I definitely did not realize or appreciate how amazing that was at the time.
Right.
But
okay.
Whatever, now I do.
So have you approached things during your career with a strategic eye, or is it really has been a case of whatever opportunities come up and has taken your fancy at the time?
I only started being strategic about my career once I started at Stokehouse, and I realised that I gave a fuck. I didn't know what I wanted to... I've done so many different things. I did like internships for a makeup artist. I worked at a fake tanning company, doing social media, influencer outreach, like all of these weird and wonderful things. But
EB Games.
Yeah, EB Games, Wendy's, mine at 10. But it wasn't until I started at Stokehouse where I really fell in love with it, and I had the thought of like, what can I do now to make this better? How can I grow this? How can I make this bigger? How can I do more for myself and learn more? And I took on event management there. I took on some sales tasks occasionally. You learn how to work on the floor. I was hostessing, doing all the socials, art direction for shoots. Like when you're a one-person team, you have to do everything. But also, I learned how to liaise with brands like, Bacardi or, whatever spirits or alcohol brand wanted to put an activation on in the bar. I learned how to do that. I learned how to organise things like weddings and corporate events. I had no idea how to do that before I started, but I kind of just threw myself into it. So that's when I started being strategic, is at Stokehouse, because I realised that I cared and I needed to get my butt into gear and learn, because if I was going to have a future, I had to learn at this awesome place that was giving me the opportunity. So why not take it? Yeah,
and it does sound like you got in there at the right time almost.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did. I do not know how I actually know that I was the second choice for that job, because they left the emails in the email inbox when the other girl left, who was like considering me and another girl who I funnily enough went to high school with. It was uncanny when I started and all of these emails were in there. And she'd already been offered and I wasn't. It's okay. But anyway, I can't even remember what you were questioning.
I said you got in there at the right time.
Oh, yeah.
Like the opportunity
I did. I think at that point, they didn't really know what social media... Like, they were doing social media, but it was, this is the cocktail special we've got on today. And I think even stories had only just become a thing on Instagram. Like, it was quite green. But, yeah, I up until then, the marketing role at Stokehouse had just been, a part-time thing. But I got in there and grew it and grew it and grew it. I just pushed and almost forced them to make it a full-time role. And then I took on one of the venues in Melbourne that the group had for a time. But during that time also they established a marketing team in head office in Melbourne. So it kind of just all blew up at the same time.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I learned so much. So much.
And it's interesting with social media, isn't it? Because the fact of the matter is anyone can do it technically. They can post stuff on Instagram or on Facebook or whatever, but the key is doing it in a way that actually brings business outcomes.
Yes. If we talk about being strategic, that is like the number one thing. And I outsource all of my clients' social media to an expert for that reason, because I'm not that good at it. I used to be good at it when I could focus on it 24/7. But everything changes so fast now, and I sound like an old lady. I'm like, everything's too fast and technical for me. But I really can't keep up, and I don't know what the best hashtag strategy is anymore. I don't know, how I should be boosting posts, or I don't even know what the text ratio is anymore for boosting posts. even if it's still 20%. I don't know.
I think they got rid of that.
I don't know. Oh, did they?
Yeah.
See? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure because I don't know either.
But yeah, I outsource it all because I would prefer an expert do it and have a good result. So,
right.
I white label a few services for my clients that I don't do perfectly myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And okay. And I suppose the other thing with hospitality and social media though, right? It's can be a little bit tough when you're not in there.
Mm-hmm.
In the physical, especially with the stories and all the...
Yeah. What I've found is the best way to do it is get an expert or like an external social media coordinator to do all of the feed posts. But then you have, say you've got multiple locations, there's like 2 staff members at each location who are approved to post stories or feed posts if they, ask first. And then within that, they know that you can use this font in, these colours, geotag with the clear one, not the rainbow one, all of those sorts of things. You can use GIFs or you can't use GIFs, all of those sorts of things. And that generally, they're only there for 24 hours. It's not that big of a deal, it's just a photo. And if it's really bad, it can be deleted. I feel like it's all supposed to be about fun. I tell this to my clients all the time. It's food and it's alcohol. It's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
Let's not get too worked up about it.
Sure. Yeah. So why leave here? This sounds like this is the dream job.
Where, Stoke House?
Yeah.
I kind of just did everything I could do. I learned as much as I could learn and I found myself feeling a bit unfulfilled. I wanted more. I wanted more and more and more. And without moving to Melbourne, to the head office of the group that I was with, I couldn't really get that. So I was very close with my boss. And we had monthly appraisals at my job. So we'd catch up once a month, you need to improve on this, feedback each way. And over the course of like 6 months, he could see that I was growing more and more dissatisfied with what I still loved it. And I was so emotional when I left. But I got to one conversation. He was like, I think you just need to go. And I didn't get fired, but we just had a very candid conversation where he, said, I think you're not getting what you need here and I can't give it to you. And I'll support you in whatever you need to go and find something amazing. And he did. And it was just I was gutted when I left. I was so emotional. We had a big party and they bought me a huge bunch of flowers like the size of my torso. But yeah, we had a big champagne breakfast. I'm like hyping myself up. I'm like, yeah, everyone loved me so much. No, I just was so emotional. And even for like 4 months after I left, I went back and did rockstar shifts on the desk, hostessing, because I was not ready to let go.
Couldn't let go.
Yeah,
right. When people tell me that they did exactly what they felt was right and it was time to move on and they moved on, I get so jealous because I stayed when I was young. I just stayed in places way too long.
Oh yeah.
But you people who do that, I'm almost too far the other way now. Where if someone says one sentence I don't like, I'm
Call it
out.
too early.
No,
I'm the same.
Don't want to talk to you.
I'm too fickle.
Yeah, just ruthless now. So I'm kind of overcompensating a little bit, perhaps.
Yeah. I was also lucky that I could talk about it with my boss, and I didn't have someone who was insecure about. Some bosses would be insecure about me saying, "Oh, I'm thinking of leaving," and they'd just say, "Well, pull the trigger." But yeah, I was so lucky to find that place and be a part of the family there, and learn that literally everything that I know, I learned it all there.
Yeah.
So I owe a lot to those people.
And that is a pretty cool relationship to have with your boss. And I don't know why some people don't like that, having that, because if you're a boss, it's good to know that, someone's looking at moving on. Let's work together to make it work for both of us so that, I'm not left in a lurch, but you also can move on. And I don't think it needs... Be
happy about it.
Yeah. It doesn't need to be this rock up one day and here's my resignation letter.
It shouldn't be a surprise. It really should not be a surprise when your staff leave. And if it is, there's something going wrong. Yeah. Whether it's, on your part or on the employee's part. But yeah, we had an excellent relationship, and we weren't friends, I wouldn't say. We weren't, we didn't talk outside of work. No. But he'd call me once a week and, kind of say, "Are you good?" And I'd be like, "Yep, I'm good. I just need this and this." And he'd be like, "Okay, cool, I'll send it now." Sure. And that was the extent of our our conversations, and he would follow me up on things. And that's what I say when I mean that he wasn't breathing down my neck about everything. He, let me have some creative control and would trust me. And I'm so lucky he trusted me on some things that were epic fails as well. And he just let me do it. And I know that he knew better because he has a long career in hospitality. He knew that things wouldn't work, but he still let me do them.
Wow.
To learn.
Wow.
So I'm
That's
very,
really
very
cool.
lucky.
Yeah.
Very lucky. Shout out, Peter. Love you.
Was the next job like that?
No. Let's get into it. Let's talk about this, Jack. So I left Stokehouse, and I thought I'm going to try agency life because I thought that I have idolised for a really long time this agency in Sydney called Buffet. They are unreal. The work that they do is unreal. And I thought if I can do account management, then I can learn more about the agency side of things and either start my own or go and work for somewhere like Buffet. So I took this role as an account manager, and awesome agency, amazing people, but my direct manager he just killed me. When I talk about overbearing managers, he was just like breathing down my neck. And I don't want to say he wasn't condescending, but he was quite curt in the way that he would talk to me, which I also didn't react well to. Problems with authority flagging up. There was a good anecdote to kind of illustrate it is a client's website went down, and they emailed me. It was in the middle of a sale, and the client emailed me and said how many people could have accessed the site and how many people have been turned away because of this. And I replied honestly, and I said there's no way to know. I doubt it was many, but there's no way to know. And I was reprimanded for that, and I had an apology email dictated to me over my shoulder to send to the client. I wasn't allowed to make any changes to it. It was rough. So me being me was just like steam coming out of my ears.
Yeah.
I was only there for a month, and every day I would come home to my boyfriend and be like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And part of me thought I was being a spoilt millennial, like, I just need to suck it up and learn how to work in a real work environment. But then we went on Christmas break, and I just could not stomach the thought of going back. And I'd asked other people there, I said, is this just, hazing almost? Is this just because I'm new? And they were like, no, he's like this for everyone and it will never stop.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, cool, that's me. Out. See you guys. No, I'm done. No, I'm not doing this forever. Not for me.
I don't understand why you have to apologise for telling the truth.
Because it upset her. Because she was not pleased with the fact that some people might have, missed out, which, shit happens.
But, if the site goes down, there's probably going to be one person that couldn't.
Yes. And I guess I was expected to say, maybe two or, whatever that answer might be to placate the client. But that's not the business that I'm in. I would prefer to just be honest and work through it together.
Yeah.
And it was down for like 2 minutes.
Right.
Like it wasn't down for half a day. It was a matter of minutes. So yeah, anyway.
Right. Nice.
It was a good learning experience because I learned very quickly what I didn't want in a boss.
Yeah.
And I considered a few other jobs. I actually interviewed for a few other jobs before I left there, once I knew that I needed to leave. But then I went home to my parents' house for Christmas, and I just resigned. I was like, I can't go back. And I didn't get another job. And then here I am. Yeah. Just fell into what I'm doing. Kind of just got forced into it by circumstance.
And you mentioned the part there about how millennials, do we need to just suck it up or whatever? But I kind of call BS on that.
Me too.
And maybe I fell for it at one time when I was younger, that you kind of have to put up with shit.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah. Yeah. There was part of me that was like, this is, I'm paying my dues. Everyone has to have a shit boss. Everyone has to, have a crappy corporate job. But I don't know. I just felt so upset by it. Like I would come home and just sob because I was like, I can't do anything right. I can't do anything right at this job. And I've never worked in an agency before. I don't know how tickets work. I don't know anything. So it just felt like I was back to square one with not knowing how to do anything. But yeah, part of me, I did consider staying for 6 months just to, have a nice round number on my LinkedIn, but no, couldn't do it.
No.
Could not do it.
Okay.
I'm too stubborn.
Well, maybe you got the benefit out of that comparison now that you've had this shitty job, but you only had to put up with it for a very short period of time. So you do have the experience, and there's probably not much more value in being there another 5 months.
Exactly.
It would have been the
That
same every
sucks.
day.
It was an awesome client. Awesome team, and I had great clients, but I just couldn't do it.
And then from there, did you know that you were going to do your own thing?
I think I was just very confused. I didn't go back. I was at my parents' house when I resigned in Emerald, and then I came back to Brisbane, and I was kind of like, do I get a job? And I was keeping my eye out. But after that, I was not going to apply for something that I didn't really want. And there was a lot out there, but it was for, water treatment plants or mechanics or, data companies. And it's just like so not my bag. So I didn't apply for anything, and I picked up a few copywriting clients, corporate copywriting clients. My mum, she has another side hustle where she does business coaching, so I was writing blogs and social content for her. Just really easy stuff. And then I kind of had a chat with my partner, and I was like, well, now or never. Like, let's just do it. I had my emergency fund, which I was willing to chip into, not as much as I did. I got it down to like 0, which is not smart. I should not have done that. But I kind of figured if I'm going to do it anytime, we don't have a mortgage, we don't have kids, we're renting, may as well.
So if you say you shouldn't have done that, take this fund down to 0, what should you have done?
I think it's fine to dip into an emergency fund.
Yeah.
Mine wasn't very big. I only had $10,000. Well, I say only. That is a lot of money. And it was a lot of money for me. And it was a lot of money for the purposes that I expected it to be for, a medical emergency, things got stolen, I don't know, whatever that might be, losing my job, or quitting my job in a tantrum, whatever that might be. But realistically, I should have had closer to $50,000 saved for what I was doing. And I expected things to pick up way quicker than they did, obviously, because COVID. So I expected to, only drain maybe a quarter of it. But I ended up getting down to 0 because I, 1, couldn't get work, 2, was too defeated by the world to get work. And I was basically just skimming on 0. Plus it had come just after Christmas, so I'd just, gone crazy. Drinking, eating, buying gifts and that sort of thing. But
okay. But you talk about, so you shouldn't have done it, but I'm still trying to work out what that alternative is that you could have done.
Maybe got a part-time job. I could have just swallowed my ego.
No,
I've got a part-time job now.
Okay. Oh, really?
I'm working casually at Otto in South Bank as a hostess. Again, cannot stay away. I'm doing it partly for the security, but also because I just want to be there. It's just so fun for me.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I felt such a repulsion to getting a part-time job then. I think it just felt like failing. But yeah, I think I should have just swallowed my pride maybe and not tried to go balls to the wall immediately. I could have, gradually... I didn't have to be working in a marketing role. I could have gotten a retail job, or, I know how to work on the floor. I could have worked at a cafe. I could have done anything. But I was doing this copywriting, so I figured that was enough.
And how did you get those copywriting clients, the first few?
Referrals.
Okay.
All referrals from people that I know.
Sure.
Just saying that I'm available. Yeah, really boring stuff.
And now we're at the stage basically where you start your business. But what would you say to the person who started the business now that you've got, over a year
Seriously? Have more
hindsight?
capital.
Okay, yeah,
If you're going to do it full time, if you're going to launch into it full time, like jumping off a cliff, have capital. Don't just expect that things are going to work, because they won't. I don't know, maybe they will. Maybe you're amazing. And
you got pretty unlucky though with the timing though as well.
Yeah, I would say that I kind of got smacked down pretty hard in terms of circumstances. I would also say that there's 2 things that I have learned a lot about. One, you need to be really, really consider the sacrifices. Like, you will not be able to socialize. Like, there's so many times where I just had to say no because I either didn't have the cash or didn't have the time or the energy. You will lose sleep. You will lose money. You know exactly how it is. It's just hard.
All too well, yeah.
And also, just don't feel like even if you're new to business, don't feel like you have to listen to everyone. Don't feel like everyone's opinion actually has weight, because it doesn't. Everyone wants to offer their 2 cents about, what you should do or who you should pursue or how you should structure your business or what products you should offer. But it's ultimately it comes down to you and your business sense. And I've just got so much advice over the past year, some of which has been absolute gold, and I've really taken to heart. But other advice I took quite seriously, and then maybe a few weeks later I looked back and I was like, that's not me at all. Like, I shouldn't have, just because they're more experienced in business, they don't know my situation. Like, I sat down with someone as an example, and I was saying to them, if they own their own marketing agency, and I was saying, I'm really just struggling to get clients. I'm struggling to pursue this market. I'm having this ethical dilemma about whether I should. And their answer was to just target a different niche, go into corporate, target corporate, or, do something like that. And I took it really seriously. And I shouldn't have, because I don't enjoy doing any work other than hospitality and lifestyle. Like, why would I even lend credence to that? I don't like it. Oh, it's just going to upset me for the sake of getting some cash.
Yeah.
And it's not the business that I want to build. It's not the end goal. So it's just interesting how much, when you feel like you're new, you need to absorb all of this information like a sponge. But just, I should have learned how to trust my gut a lot sooner and not, put so much weight in other people's opinions. But,
and in that instance, was your gut screaming not to do that?
Yeah.
Right.
I think so. But again, when you're so new to business, I didn't know, I know now to trust my gut, but it's almost like, well, they run a successful business, so I should probably listen. But, not everyone's advice is, they don't know your situation, they don't know your goals, and without, being a business coach, they can't possibly know where you want to end up and how you enjoy doing business and the clients that you want and all of these sorts of, or even the personality that you want to portray as a business, They might refer, a client who's right in your market, but they're quite stiff and corporate, like a corporate functions venue, for example, for me, when I probably wouldn't get along with them as a client because I'm quite easygoing. I'm a bit sweary, that sort of thing. So I prefer, burger joints or, fun cafes or whatever.
Sure. Okay.
And fine diners.
And with advice, it's interesting when people jump straight to the prescription, right? Like, if they're really light on diagnosis, that's always a massive red flag for me, is you haven't asked me 3 questions to understand why things are the way they are at the moment. How can I possibly take the pill you're offering me when you don't know what's wrong with me?
Exactly. Or you don't know the market. Like, if you don't know my market at all, I mean, I shouldn't. I know my market because I worked in it. So why am I listening to someone who's never worked with a hospitality client in their life, But anyway, I know now.
And I'd be interested in the ratio of good advice to bad advice you got. If you look back, what would you say it was?
I wouldn't say that I sought out advice from people I didn't want to hear from.
Okay.
So I probably got maybe 60% advice that I've really heeded and taken to heart.
Okay.
The rest I kind of have disregarded. But I didn't.
It's not too bad then.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
No. But I didn't go out of my way, asking for advice from people who I didn't think I wanted to hear from.
Sure.
There was a few people who I saw, you look at people in the industry, you see the posts on LinkedIn and you're like, wow, they're amazing. They're so intelligent. But then, I sat down with them and I was like, wow, we are so different. We could not be approaching this in a more different way. But yeah, whatever. It is what it is. You learn. You live and you learn. Live and let learn.
And so how have you grown it? Like, what have you done to grow your business?
I am at a point now where I'm only just working full time. Things only kicked in for me again in August, September of last year, and things kind of exploded quite quickly. I am working. I don't have enough time now to be building the business. I'm not working on my business enough. I'm working in it way too much. So I've grown it in terms of just I've kept taking on clients. Every client I've got so far, it's been a referral. Which is danger zone because that's not going to happen forever. So I'm very cautious at the moment. I'm in a period of growth where I need to do something to free up my time to start doing more BD and getting more clients and building relationships and making content and the whole thing.
Which you tell your clients to do?
Yes, exactly. Practice what I preach. But yeah, I've kind of grown by I'm at a base level of a business right now. I'm working full-time, more than full-time on billable work when I need to, it's like shifting gears. Like I'm, high revs right now, and I need to switch back down and be able to spend some time on the business. But yeah, I'll grow it I think I'm going to launch a course. I think that feels like a good way to scale my business without having people like commit to consulting.
Yep.
They can still learn without having to pay one-on-one fees. So we'll get there.
Makes perfect sense.
We'll get there. There's all these ideas rattling around, and I just need to do it.
So what are the goals for the future going forward?
Launch my course. The big, hairy, audacious goal that I have is to have people look at me like I look at agencies like Buffet. I want to be a preferred employer. I've only decided very recently, we were talking about it before, that I even want to hire people. I thought that my business model up until very recently was just going to be me working with a couple of high value clients and outsource the rest. And it might get back there. But I think for now I want to be able to grow and have maybe a team of 4 or 5, maybe. But I would, again, only like to take on a handful of high-value clients. It's not sustainable for me to be doing all these little ad hoc jobs for clients. And I want to be able to release some digital products and sell the course and teach a course. I love teaching. But yeah, I don't know. I just kind of want to just grow for now and see where it takes me.
Right.
I'd love to be able to take some days off.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. One of my goals when I started this year was to work Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday and take Wednesdays off in the middle of the week. But the further I get into this year, the less likely that looks.
Sure.
It might have to be a 2022 goal,
okay.
which is sad. But yeah, I'm just trying to grow.
Right.
Trying to do it sustainably.
Yeah.
And not take on any loans or whatever that might be.
And yeah, I think you're owed a better year this year, so I'm sure it will go better for you.
I hope so. Seriously.
Yeah.
That's like I was saying to my partner the other day, he's a pharmacist, so he is so far removed from what I do, it's ridiculous. But so he loves to lend his advice. Talk about bad advice. He loves to lend he's going to listen to this and be like, what? He loves to lend his advice when he doesn't necessarily completely understand what's going on. But I was saying to him that if I manage to fail this year, then I'm completely backwards, because I managed to coast through COVID in my first year of business. But hopefully I can only go upwards from here and have a great story to tell that I started a business in a pandemic in a market that was shutting down. So
I don't think the timing gets any worse. I really haven't heard of, literally hospitality industry branding, which is probably seen as a nice to have, especially at that time.
Yeah.
A month before COVID hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
it's pretty painful, but that's okay. I got flashbacks.
It feels like a movie when you even say it, but it was real life.
Pain, man.
Yeah.
But it was really, really hard, but I know now that I can probably survive anything.
Yeah.
Because if I managed to survive, it was easy to be defeated, and I did let myself get defeated for a while. And I just would sit at the computer all day and not do a single thing, which is so ridiculous. But it happens when you're feeling a bit overwhelmed and defeated. I was drinking too much, blah, blah, blah. Don't need to get into that. But
we've all been there.
I was drinking too much. I was eating like shit. I was crying. It was just middle of COVID times, you know, lockdown as well. I'm an extrovert. I love people.
Okay.
Couldn't tell being in the hospitality industry. But I locked down very early as well because my boyfriend's a pharmacist, and I was so terrified that he would bring it home to me, and then I would take it out into our community because he works quite far away from where we live.
Yep.
I was so worried that we've got a lot of elderly people in our area, and I was so stressed that I would be the one to bring it into our suburb.
Right.
So I locked down, completely isolated, and he would do the grocery shopping when he was at work.
Okay.
He would do everything. I didn't need to go to work because I was starting a business. So being completely isolated in my tiny apartment, trying to build my empire, should I say, it was tough, but that's okay. I'm here now.
It's a great origin story. This is going to be come back in 3 years and tell us how it's all been.
Oh my God. I'll be for him working at Macca's. And not that there's anything wrong with working at Macca's, but I feel like I'm either going to be running a team of like 15
Yeah.
or I will be completely defeated as a barista in a tiny cafe. Who knows?
I'm disappointed you didn't say EB Games, but anyway.
I should go back, just completely switch gears and go back. I think if I applied now as a 27-year-old without having ever played a game, they'd be like, excuse me, who are you? What? And I'm like, I worked here when I was 15.
Yeah.
I know everything.
Worked last time. Yeah. Anyway, we'll wrap up in a minute, but it's been a pleasure to get to know your story and all the things that have happened, and good on you for sticking with it.
Thank you.
That's as good as a resilience you see, I think. And again, that is some very painful timing, some very unlucky timing. So awesome job. Awesome job sticking with it, and that's
kind of working now.
Yeah,
I've got a full client roster. I don't know how that happened, but it's happening. So
yeah, you stuck to your guns. Well done. That's a amazing story, Sala. So I appreciate your time. If someone wanted to get in touch with you, or they wanted to reach out and chat, how should they do that?
So my studio, I call it Snag. So you can find the website snagstudio.co. That's the Instagram, that's the Facebook page, that's everything, snagstudio.co. Or you can find me on Instagram, which is Sala Rankine, SalaRankine.
Cool. You're the first person to not say LinkedIn, I think.
Oh. Yep. Add me on LinkedIn, please, Sala Rankine. I go on LinkedIn so infrequently, and I follow a few people who just post the stupidest stuff. Not in like a corporate way, like they're actually just posting ridiculous stuff that belongs on Instagram or Facebook, and I love it. That's the only reason I go on there, just to laugh at these posts. I can't get around the corporate stuff anymore.
Yeah, right.
I've done my time in recruitment.
Yeah. Probably makes more sense for you to be on those other channels anyway for your industry.
I don't think anyone else in hospitality is on LinkedIn unless they're in, marketing and comms like me.
Yeah.
But I don't know how many chefs are on LinkedIn.
Yeah, probably not many.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you for coming in and being on the Push podcast and chatting and sharing. And that's a great story, Sala. So I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Push podcast. Show notes can be found at bethepush.com/podcast and clicking on the relevant episode link. Remember to subscribe, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.